Well, hi, everybody. I'm excited today to have Amy Wees from Amazing at Home with us. So I'm Bernie Thompson from PPC Ninja. And Amy is involved with some important an important kind of topic within the selling and brand community right now, which is country of production. In particular, Amy is helping organize a conference and a set of activities around a conference called the Mexico trip, where they're going to be providing some support framework around a sourcing fair that's already happening in Mexico. I guess Amy will provide more details. And so I'm really excited about this chance to talk to Amy about the issues of and opportunities of potentially sourcing in Mexico. So welcome, Amy.
Thank you, Bernie. It's so great to be here. I really am excited about this topic. It's been something I've been working on for a few years, and just excited to be part of kind of the first major force of us e-commerce entrepreneurs going to Mexico. It's exciting.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, right now, this is, of course, a hot topic in the news with all the supply chain disruption, and we'll get into talking about a bit of that. And kind of from a naive perspective, people think, well, why don't we just produce, the same things that we're shipping from Asia in the US, or why don't we produce them in Mexico? And so, there is some opportunity but also some pitfalls. So we're going to try to talk through some of those. So first off, what are you hearing in terms of before actual momentum, just sort of interest in exploring Mexico as a country of production? What have you been hearing lately?
Yeah, so I mean, the big thing is that we are all struggling with China right now. Like most of us are sourcing from China, and it's been a really tough time because of supply chain, because of a lot of the factories being shut down due to COVID, and then on top of all the port congestion and everything else, and the shipping rates just skyrocketing. I mean, some people are paying more for shipping than they're even paying for their products. It naturally causes us to go, okay, what else can I do? And we haven't really had to do that up until now. I mean, really, we've been kind of comfortable with China. And of course, we've explored other major sourcing destinations such as Europe and India. Megla Bardwaj has that going on. And there's a lot of really great, Taiwan, Vietnam, a lot of great sourcing destinations. But none of those places that I just mentioned are in the Americas. And we all know that major corporations like Toyota have already moved all of their manufacturing to Mexico and North America. And we all wonder, okay, if Toyota can do it, can other people do it? But then we think, I'm a micro brand, I'm no Toyota. I can't set up my own factory in Mexico. But I wonder if there's a possibility to source something. Are there other factories there? What are the manufacturing capabilities? And then we run once again into the roadblock of there's no Alibaba for Mexico, so we don't know. And I've been going to Mexico for years, mostly vacationing, but I find the most amazing products that are all made in Mexico. And I'm like, wait a minute, where are these factories? It's everything, every category you can imagine can be made in Mexico, especially the ones that for micro brands, the ones that we are most focused on. So on my China trips, I have China sourcing trips. Obviously, we haven't been going lately, but on my China sourcing trips, most of us are focused on Canton Fair Phase 2, which is your home goods, your giftables, that kind of stuff. A little bit in Phase 3, which is like your sporting goods. But most of us are in like pets, home goods, giftables, that kind of stuff, and ceramics. All of that can be sourced in Mexico. So we're just left with wondering, okay, where are these manufacturers? How do I contact them? What's going on, right? So that's what we have been working on. That's why we were ambitious and decided, okay, not only are we going to do a sourcing trip to Mexico to teach people about the culture there, because it's not China, and we can't just call up a manufacturer in Mexico and be like, hey, can you make this thing? And can you put the packaging on it? And can you just, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. So we put together a sourcing trip to teach how business works there, how culture works there. Same thing when I do my sourcing trips in China. It changes your business to actually go and meet and understand the culture. But on top of that, we actually were super ambitious and decided that we were going to host our very own trade show. And not only are we hosting our very own trade show, but we're also having an education session for Mexico manufacturers. So the day before the trade show at the World Trade Center, we are going to bring in the manufacturers that are exhibitors at our trade show, and we're going to teach them how to work with gringos like us. So, because what happened during COVID, Bernie, is a lot of the manufacturers in Latin America, not just Mexico, but Latin America as a whole, they were producing for local companies. They were producing for local retailers, that kind of thing. I mean, big production for local companies, not really exporting a whole lot. And so what happened during COVID is a lot of those companies got shut down. And all these manufacturers are going, oh, it's kind of like us e-commerce businesses who were like in the travel industry or, some other kind of niche that was highly impacted by COVID. We all said, what's the contingency plan here? Like, what other niche can I sell in? What am I doing, right? So the manufacturers are thinking the same thing. They're all, and not just in Mexico, throughout Latin America, they're going, how do we reach beyond our borders? How do we start exporting? Right? So they don't know either, right? They're good at what they do working within their country, but they're curious too about how to work with us. So this is a really groundbreaking opportunity to get out there, make those connections, meet our manufacturers, understand the culture, and take advantage of the benefits. Because the key benefits that I'm most excited about, Bernie, right now I'm paying thousands of dollars for shipping from China. Shipping from Mexico is 2 days, ground transportation, and it's hundreds of dollars. So that's huge. That's a huge savings, and it's worth the extra work. And then the other thing that I'm so excited about Mexico for, free trade. We have the North American Free Trade Agreement, and there are no tariffs. So what are we doing, right? We have 30 days of lead time, at least on our shipping times coming from China. We've got tons of money invested there, whether we're sourcing from China, anywhere in Asia, really. And then on top of that, we are also, long lead times, and we're paying tariffs. And we're dealing with, of course, factories in Mexico, I'm sure have like COVID, they have COVID impacts, just like anywhere in the world. But when we add on all the extra stuff that we're dealing with longer shipping times and port congestion, having ground transportation between Mexico and the US and not having tariffs sounds pretty good to me.
I love how you're attacking both sides of the problem in terms of awareness and education, both on the side of brands that are looking for new places to produce to solve some of these problems, and also on the manufacturer side. That's so smart to also and really probably key to getting the interest of both sides to kind of come together in one place, one conference, and so this is a really great approach. Really excited about this. So let's break some of this down now. So you're absolutely right. I mean, one of the reasons why China dominates in so many categories of product manufacturing, it's really a combination of factors. It is a large workforce, that is hardworking, a government that kind of backs that and supports them, especially in past decades, and kind of building up China's industrial base. And then kind of a can-do yes attitude. I mean, with a vendor in mainland China, the first thing you're going to get when you ask a question is a yes, and then they'll back up and try to figure out how they're going to fulfill that yes, which can be dangerous. So let's talk about kind of the environment in that as you're aware of it so far in those three areas, in terms of the workforce, in terms of government support, in terms of culture. Of kind of, finding, that partner who, for whatever product or process you're looking to find a partner for, that you find a working connection. So what are your thoughts on the interesting aspects there?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing was studying the differences between the culture in Mexico and the history there, and then in China, right? One key thing to note is that China labor prices have really been raising lately, and that's causing raw materials to go up. Mexico labor prices are actually lower than China. That's really, I mean, that's kind of a big deal, right? So that on the labor front, we can expect very similar prices, if not lower, right? And now on the materials front, we do know that most of our raw materials are coming from Asia, right? They're very developed there. But think about the tariff savings when you're moving your raw materials over, right? So let's say that you find a manufacturer. So we can talk about, there's finished goods that we can source. There's white label type goods that we can source in Mexico, all kinds of things, leather, wood, ceramics, all those home goods that we talked about, that kind of stuff. Those are a lot of finished goods, a lot of things that you're going to find in China as well, and that you can white label. So those things are already in production. They're doing well. But let's say you have a private label product that you are manufacturing. For me, I sell some flooring. So I went to Mexico, and I was looking for a manufacturer, and I had to a few key tips for people. The first thing you need to know is your manufacturing process and what it's called. What is that thing that that factory that you're trying to find? What are they called, right? You might be called a textile mill in China, or, a cut and sew factory, or, a plastics factory, whatever it is, injection molding, whatever you're looking for, whatever your process is, you're going to want to know what that is. This is not China where we can go, make this, it's different. We need to be able to have conversations. So step one is knowing your manufacturing process, and actually knowing what that's called in Spanish. That's going to help you in your search, right? Knowing what that's called in Spanish, I've found manufacturers on Google Maps. I've found manufacturers on LinkedIn, right? And then I was able to reach out to them. Now, this particular product that I sell in the flooring department, the manufacturer that I found makes the exact same type of flooring. I was so excited. I was like, yes, I found it in Mexico. Yes, victory. Well, Bernie, what do you think? What do you think the price that they gave me was on this product? Do you have any idea?
I have no idea what price they gave. Whether it was 200% higher or 50% less. So what was it?
It was this nearly the same. In fact, a little bit more expensive than the retail price I'm selling it for on Amazon. So,
Wow.
of course, this was new for me, getting into Mexico, and I was like, whew, maybe I can't do this, right? But the more that I learned, I was like, okay, wait, if they have to price it that high and I'm selling it for less than that on Amazon, maybe I have better relationships than they do. So what I found what they were doing is they were basically buying wholesale from China, and then they were customizing in Mexico. Well, guess what? I have great relationships with my suppliers in China. I have great access to raw materials. I could import, or I guess export, those to Mexico from China. And now those are considered raw materials and not finished goods. And oh, by the way, the tariffs are not the same sending from China to Mexico. So I can develop those relationships. I can take that next step with that manufacturer and say, okay, let's work together, right? I'm selling this for less in retail. That's not going to bring you much business, right? But we can work together. I've got great relationships. I can order raw materials, get them sent to you. Len, you can do all my customization and finished goods. And then I've got free trade. I've got shorter lead times, all of that, right? So it's all about, of course, like I mentioned, like finished goods, you're going to be able to find those things. So don't let that discourage you, right? Amy's story here discourage you. But if you are developing a product and you find a manufacturer in Mexico and you do get a price like I did, dig a little deeper, have a conversation, because it's all about building those relationships. We don't know what we don't know, right? So So that's the thing. Understand what your manufacturing process is, know what it's called in Spanish, start having those conversations. What I did is I actually had my contact in Mexico City, like actually go visit them, because I was like, okay, they're communicating with me and they're giving me these prices, but I need to meet with them. And with my experience with my China trips, it really changed everything about my business. When I was able to go and meet with suppliers in person, I was able to cut my costs down on that same product that I talked about sourcing in Mexico. I used to pay $6 for it per unit from a trading company in China. And when I went to China myself and started talking with factories, I was able to get my cost down to $2. And that was huge for my business, makes it much more scalable, right? Plus, I was able to, build those relationships and order larger quantities because of the costs coming down, and also better protect my designs, because when you're working with a factory versus a trading company, you have more control of your supply chain. So yeah, I would say that's kind of some tips for you with just thinking about working in Mexico. Is you're going to be able to find a lot of things. But it's going to take more work. It's going to take more conversation. It's going to take more communication. And the best thing that you can do, if you can, is get there, meet in person. And it's much easier right now to get to Mexico than it is to get to China. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so let's break down a little bit of kind of what you were talking about there. So, one aspect of what you were talking about is, okay, if it's finished goods and the prices are what you were looking for, or allow you to be competitive in the market, great. You found a clear opportunity there. Now, you talked about kind of your scenario with the flooring, where they were actually just doing some kind of final processing in Mexico, but actually the raw material, or even more than like a almost finished hardwood. Yeah, it was coming from China there again, tracing back to China, which, by the way, you'll find over and over again that everything traces back to China because of their huge scale and cost advantages. So now, you mentioned that, if you take that very same good imported into the U.S., where the country of origin is China, you're going to be paying a tariff on that. You import it into Mexico, there's no tariff paid on import into Mexico, or at least a different tariff. There's normal Mexican tariffs, and there may be some.
Sure.
Now, in order to not have a tariff between Mexico and the U.S., the country of origin has to change to Mexico. And so, there are probably kind of black hat importers out there who that's all they do. They import to Mexico and then straight over to the U.S. and claim that it's now a product of Mexico. But that's not actually how it works. Each country has their own standards for how much value add needs to occur in that country. Yeah. Often the standard is around like 35% value add, and then the country of origin moves to where that final 35% of value is added and moves to Mexico in that case. So do you know any subtleties there of that? Have you had a chance to kind of encounter that process and that analysis of changing the country of origin by doing some enhancement, kitting, extra processing, adding of things in Mexico in order to establish a country of origin in Mexico, in order to get the benefits of the trade rate arrangement with the U.S.?
Yes.
Yeah, go
so
ahead.
I think the most important thing there, and I'm by no means an expert, I'm learning right alongside of everyone else. I hope to be an expert, and after maybe 2 Mexico trips, I hope to be more of an expert than I am now. I'm certainly a sourcing expert, but yeah, Mexico is not yet my territory. I hope to make it more my territory. So, basically what you said there, Bernie, was spot on as far as like the amount of the percentage of whatever you have to change. So one reasonable hack that I know of, and it's not really a hack, it's more of just like a standard procedure that we should practice, is instead of us importing, have your manufacturer in Mexico. Like I said, if I have those relationships, we can work together, but the manufacturer should be bringing in those raw materials, and then they're invoicing you, right, for those raw materials. And again, as you mentioned, there has to be it can't be they're just they're putting the label on it when it gets there, right? It has to be more. So, if they're just importing for me, if they're importing the flooring material and then they're doing all the trimming, they're doing all the customization, they're doing the packaging, everything else, then, you know, it probably will meet that minimum requirement. But yeah, there's definitely people that are, you know, importing and not doing the right thing and trying to hack that system. But something good to know about that is that even if you aren't doing, you know, your raw materials into Mexico and having them manufactured there, you could consider Mexico for your logistics and 3PL solutions. Because as I mentioned, labor is even lower than China. So instead of leaving your supply with your supplier, extra supply with your supplier, or putting it in a 3PL in the US, think about it, you're not going to pay those extra import duties from Mexico. You're not going to pay again, right, to import it, right? You're just going to pay once to get it to Mexico. And then you can store it in a warehouse in Mexico at a much lower rate. And you can even do like some pick and pack, whatever you need done there, right? They do kitting, they'll do packaging. So if you want to get your packaging in Mexico and get everything packaged there, you could take advantage of that. And it can be to Amazon's warehouses in 2 days then, right? And to Amazon's fulfillment centers from Mexico. So that might also show you some savings, even if we're not changing the country of origin. If it's still made in China, that's okay. But think about, you know, if you're spending a lot, I know a lot of us are really, you know, pinching pennies. We are like, man, advertising has gone up, shipping, ground transportation costs have gone up. We've got so many delays. We're trying to get our stock right, you know. So this is a way where if you're leaving your extra stock in China with your supplier, this is another way, or you're spending a lot on warehousing and 3PL in the US, you may want to consider Mexico as a destination for some logistics.
Yeah, it's interesting. We ran across this selling in Mexico FBA, and if any of our viewers have tried to sell Mexico FBA, you've probably run across this thing where if you're holding goods in Mexico under your own company's name, you actually need a Mexican corporate registration and do Mexican tax filings. And you know, it's like a lot of country tax systems. It's, you know, in some sense it's not a lot, but it actually ends up being a lot because you have a lot of paperwork to do, and you've got to secure lawyers and accountants, and there's all that kind of translation. So we, like, in terms of serving the Mexican market, we've actually chosen to stay in the NARF program, Amazon's North American Remote Fulfillment Program. Even though our volumes would be enough where we'd love to stock FBA in Mexico, it's actually the tax and regulation of holding goods in our name in Mexico that keeps us from doing that.
Wow. And I wonder if there is a logistics hack, though, if you're utilizing a 3PL there, where you might not have to do that. That might be interesting. We do have some experts coming along that are we have sourcing agents coming to the trade show, as well as, you know, exhibitors. And then we also have some logistics professionals and people who are already helping people move into Mexico, Amazon, and other e-commerce platforms in that area. So that's another consideration that we can have there. That's great. There might be something there that you wouldn't have to necessarily do that, because maybe Mexico says, well, if it's not your company holding it, if it's a Mexican company holding it, then it's, you know, it's like transfer of goods, right?
Yeah, no, and that's great that you've also got some of those third-party experts in there, because everything ends up when it comes to tax and regulation ends up becoming, you know, a tangle at times. But every country, you know, although China's the best at this, makes it a fast path to export. So you know, for the path of sourcing in Mexico and getting goods up to the U.S., you could be darn sure the Mexican government's probably trying hard to make that part easy.
And you know, I think it's also, besides private label sellers, I think it's also very exciting for resellers and wholesalers that are running larger e-commerce stores and sourcing a lot of products, either retail or wholesale. It's exciting to think about sourcing from Mexico for that purpose as well, because the finished goods, you know, every time I go to Mexico and I see all these amazing products made in Mexico, I'm like, where do I get these things, you know? So And I'm very excited about also the wholesale expansion opportunities for any brand, right? And also, thinking about the different ways to source things. There's lots of micro brands in Mexico that have never exported before, have never, and who'd probably love to have a US brand, white label their products, or, sell their brand. If you're not wanting to white label, sell their brand as a reseller, right? In the US. And think about building that moat around your business, and how exciting it is when not everyone can source what you're sourcing. That's exciting to me.
Yeah, no, that's a great opportunity, and a great way to get into an Amazon business is starting with those sorts of products. That's great. So well, let's actually, there's two topics I want to make sure that we have time to cover. But let's start with, we've already hinted at these kind of different stories for different types of products. Let's actually walk through a few product types that I'm curious about, and if you've heard anything or have any thoughts on them. One is food products, actually. Amazon with Amazon Fresh and Whole Foods and everything has actually become a really exciting market for up and coming food brands. And of course, Mexico is a huge producer of food for the United States. Do you have any thought on the opportunities in food products?
Yeah, I think it's incredible, especially e-commerce food products, because it's really, as you mentioned, Amazon Fresh and some of the like Prime Now and very quick delivery options. And I'm in Texas, so maybe it's like more saturated here in Texas, but I go to my grocery store, my Walmart, my CVS, my Walgreens, and like so much stuff is made in Mexico. Some of it even still has Spanish on it. It's still got the Mexico label for retail on it. Just tons of stuff. And so the opportunities to grow your brand very easily, to find a co-packer, and then again, take advantage of the logistics and the lower lead times and all of that. I'm super excited just about discovering that. I mean, I feel like that's another situation where we just don't know what we don't know. And same thing for me when I started going to China to trade shows and discovering things. I'm like, wow, I didn't even know that was possible. It opened up so many ideas. I think grocery, private label brands, smaller micro brands are really starting to shine in grocery, where that didn't used to be the case. We look back 10 years, like, all of us were very nervous about getting into grocery category, but now it's like we see all these little private labels that have started creating like health and wellness products and really great supplements and really awesome like grocery and snack products and health food products. I mean, the sky is really the limit. And with Mexico having some of the same regulations and with those manufacturers, I mean, I would say that as opposed to China is actually an advantage, right? Because those manufacturers are already manufacturing for the US, where you try to go source your cookie or your something like that in China, and that might not be as easy. I would say that's like one category that might be much easier and much less costly to get into in Mexico.
Well, as you know, cold shipping is a whole different ballgame, very expensive. As ship times have gone from an average of 2 weeks on the water from Asia now to, I mean, it's getting a little bit better right now, but this fall, you're up to 6 weeks in a lot of cases, plus all the port delays at LA. Yeah, I mean, cold shipping by truck is, like you say, just a whole different ballgame and so much easier. Okay. So I love China. I mean, as a production source, there's a lot going on geopolitically I don't love, but I do not buy food products from China. As soon as I see made in China on a food product, I am not buying that product. So, whereas food products made in Mexico, that's fine. I mean, there isn't
a lot of our fruits and vegetables come from Mexico already, and I would agree. I love the food in China. When I'm in China, I am eating my way around every province. I love it. Like the food is amazing. I crave it for like 2 weeks every time I come home. I'm like you, Brittany. I love China. I think it's a really great sourcing destination. And please, everyone listening to this episode here, please note that we are not by any means trying to convince you that you're going to be able to find everything you need outside of China. Like we're not there yet, period. But it is really exciting to think about, the things that we can find can be plentiful and the savings can be awesome. And also the reduction in time this time savings can also be really, really great. The shipping possibilities. So yeah, and not just in Mexico, but I think in Latin America as a whole. We're also planning some sourcing trips to some other destinations as well. I think Europe has some really great capabilities, and for us micro brands, I think this is what we have to do. We have to just get out there and start discovering. And the key about what we're teaching you to source from Mexico. So the reason we're doing this conference is because it's 3 days of learning and visiting factories and understanding how to negotiate and how to do business. The reason that we're doing that is because it's not China. It's not, it's not the same, but also something that is important to note is that when you learn how to source outside of China, in any of these countries where their manufacturing is not yet where China is, which is most of them, you are learning critical skills that you can use anywhere in the world outside of China. So what you're going to learn sourcing from Mexico is going to be core critical information that can help your business source from anywhere, because you're going to learn how to have those conversations. You're going to learn that, just that first time you got that price doesn't mean that it's, not the right fit for you. And it doesn't, and you have to work with manufacturers different in these countries where things aren't the same. Just like we had to 30 years ago in China, we had to go to China and like work hand in hand and set up Tim Jordan, our partner in this trip. He talks about in Guatemala, he started sourcing in Guatemala, and they didn't understand, they didn't have the tooling to make his products. They had the workforce, they had the gumption, they had the materials, they had everything they needed except for the tooling. And so he ended up purchasing the tool. And I think the tool is like a couple $1,000s or something, but now they're capable, they can produce at, and I think that's a prime example of not just looking for an all-in-one manufacturer that's going to be able to help you with everything. And there will be those manufacturers in Mexico. You will find a few, but they're probably going to be mostly already manufacturing foods or finished goods, right? So it's important to note that if you're developing a product and you're sourcing anywhere outside of China, that it just takes a little bit of extra work. And even in China, if you take that extra time to build a relationship, it pays dividends for years.
Yeah, so let's dig in there. So in China, one of the characteristics now of China, especially as a mature, this last decade, really the Amazon decade in China, the manufacturing capabilities are pretty mature. You're absolutely right. Like if you were Walmart going to China in the early 90s, or at least Walmart suppliers, there was a lot going on there, but it almost became easy and which is good for, smaller brands and up and coming to go to China. And even if you had a multi-step production process with a lot of different materials, a lot of different things going on, so much of the supply chain had all moved to China. Somebody sitting there in Shenzhen or in Shanghai can just look around them, and they've got 5 injection molders and 10 assembly factories and 2 package printing companies, and they're all like right there. So in a country like Mexico, I assume you've got to do more of that legwork yourself and connect those. Whereas when you're working with somebody in China, they'll figure that out for you. They're already figuring that out for 100 other brands. But in Mexico, you have to be prepared to be more of the pioneer. Is that the way to think of it?
For sure. I mean, of course, it depends on the product, right? That you're sourcing, and it depends on the manufacturer that you find. And it depends, there's a lot of factors there, just like there are in China, right? But in terms of ensuring that, you are able to, get your packaging and everything, every Mexican manufacturer that I've talked to has had lots of great connections, right? And they're so service oriented, and they're really happy to serve and to take care of you. In Latin America overall, that's kind of the attitude, and it's a really beautiful thing. And so I think that even if they don't know, what injection molding machine, they know someone, and they want your business, and they want to work with you. It's just a matter of them understanding also, because they haven't really worked with a lot of micro brands, right? So, and they haven't worked with micro brands who have primarily worked with China. So we have to remember that, okay, we might throw them off if we just come at them and treat them like a China factory that is like the one you just described, right? We really do have to kind of navigate it as, okay, well, what resources do you have? Here's what I'm doing. Let's work together, just like we're starting a business together, and like, what do you have to bring to the table? What do I have to bring to the table? Let's talk through it. And, don't assume. I think assumptions and thinking that, oh, this manufacturer just needs to do it all for me and they need to just figure it out, that's where it's going to get you in trouble. But overall, the culture in Latin America is to serve, and it's just a beautiful thing. Some beautiful relationships there. The other thing that you mentioned was injection molding. So that's another thing that's exciting about Mexico. When I invented my product and I needed molds made, Mexico and China were my only two choices. So 90% of molds are made in China. And the other, there's 2% or something that are made in the US, and there's very few mold makers in the US. There is more aluminum, cheaper, like proto mold kind of stuff that is for low production, where you can make a couple thousand units. There's that kind of stuff. There's 3D printing in the US. But when it comes to true injection molding, you're going to find a lot of that in Mexico. A lot of metals, a lot of machining. So that's actually really exciting. And I think the more that we break into this market and the more that we use it, the more doors that it's going to open. And my product is actually made in the USA, and I had the molds made in China, and then I shipped them back to the US. So it's exciting to think, okay, not only can we get molds made in Mexico, we can work with manufacturers there, we can put all those pieces together. For me to have my product made in the USA, I had to do a lot outside of the US and bring it in. So if I can do that in the US, I know that I can do it in Mexico too. It's just a matter of having those conversations and getting those things started. The other thing that really surprised me is the amount of administrative support and virtual assistance that you can find in Mexico. So, as I mentioned, labor is very cost effective in Mexico. And people there are just wonderful to work with. Most of them speak Spanish and English, highly educated, very professional. We have a sales team that's working on our trade show. We hired experts that run a bunch of trade shows in Mexico, because that's not us. So, we wanted to make sure that we put on the best trade show that we can. And so we have a sales team, and they are just so professional and so wonderful. And, Bernie, it's really made me think about, why am I not thinking about staffing in Mexico? Because same time zone, equal to pricing to where a lot of us are currently getting our virtual assistants, right? So that's another thing that's kind of exciting about Mexico.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's a great idea. And we talked about kind of the, some of the shipping and logistics and supply chain disruption reasons to move production out of China, but we haven't actually talked about the biggest reason, which is that if you're sourcing from China, your factory, chances are, is going to compete with you back on Amazon. I mean, the goal of most kind of large scale production organizations in China right now is really to go public on in the China Stock Exchange, and the path to that is to build a global brand, and Amazon has enabled that. So, like in our case, most of the factories we source from have their own brands on Amazon. With Mexico, are you going to have that same kind of issue?
Yeah, I doubt it. And it's so interesting that you say that, Bernie, because I just started going to China like a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago. And when I first went, and I did a lot of factory tours, did a lot of supplier visits. And one of my questions to vet suppliers is always, do you sell your products to consumer, right? And do you sell your products online? And when I first started going to China, that was like almost unheard of. Like you would barely hear of that. And then when more recently, like everybody, like, and they're not just selling, they have huge e-commerce departments inside of the factory. When you go visit the offices, it's like, this is our e-commerce department. And it's like, wow, okay. And Amazon did go to China and really start teaching factories how to list. That their goal is to be, you would think Walmart's like the low price leader, and now Amazon is kind of in some categories starting to look like that, right? And so I think it's very interesting, and it's kind of a positive thing that in Mexico, that's not really what they're interested in. However, I do have, like I said, some contacts there that are interested in growing their brands outside of their country. And, they've talked to me about it. They're like, Amy, you just do our e-commerce side of things. We make all these products, like just help us, right? So there's a lot of opportunity but you would be growing them instead of them competing against you like you deal with in China. So there's a little bit more of an opportunity there. But again, Mexico's not China, so we just have to, it's funny because we've been tossing around like, is Mexico the new China? Mexico is the new China. That's been like kind of the funny thing we've been tossing around, and it gets people's attention. But really, Mexico is not the new China. Mexico is Mexico, and China is China. And I think it's exciting to learn about the benefits, the pros and cons of working with each.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, since this, our audience, PPC Ninja, let's also mention that PPC Ninja does do our software supports Mexico as a destination market for Amazon, and also our services, as you know, Ritu Java, covers Mexico too. And as I mentioned, my other brand, which is a electronics brand, we've been actually selling in Mexico now for, I don't know, 5 years or something like that, under various Amazon programs, and for the last 2 or 3 years under the North American Remote Fulfillment Program. So there's also a lot of opportunities in Mexico, to sell the products.
On the e-commerce side, yeah, for sure. And that market continues to grow. And unlike like Canada, where there's a lot of drop shipping, you don't see that in Mexico very much. So that's it's like people just don't really know what to do there, maybe because it's a different language, unlike Canada, which is English. So I think that there's incredible opportunity there, and I continuously see it grow. And my clients who are selling in Mexico, they continue to see their sales grow. So yeah, I think that learning about some of these logistics side of things that we can learn about when we go there, and understanding a little bit more about Amazon Mexico and just the whole ecosystem there, I think it'll open a lot of doors for all of us, because NARF is great, the North American Fulfillment Program, but a remote fulfillment program. But the only issue with NARV, I think you brought this up too, Bernie, is that sometimes you'd sell more if you actually did, have more of a presence in Mexico. So hopefully we can all kind of crack that thing wide open and figure out, what that looks like. And that is a just continually growing market.
Okay, well, this is a great set of topics. We've covered kind of Mexico from all kinds of different angles, but the real way to learn about the opportunity here is to go to your conference. So tell us a bit more about the timing price, and other details of what's coming up?
Yeah, so first we have the Mexico sourcing trip, and that's where we're going to be in Mexico from June 4th through the 9th. And this is an all-inclusive trip. So we want you to not worry about anything. Like you're going to a foreign country. We don't want you to worry about like, where am I going to sleep tonight? Where am I going to eat? How am I going to get to here and there? Like, no, we got you. We are staying in incredible hotels. We have really great dinners planned, lots of tourist activities planned, daytime conferences where you're going to learn a ton of stuff. And I mean, that is just, it's awesome, right? So we're going to do that from the 4th through the 9th of June. And you can sign up for that at themexicotrip.com. And we actually have a special ninja code. If you use code NINJA500 at checkout, you're going to save a little bit of money, like $500 worth of money. And, you know, that's just brought to us by the fine folks at PPC Ninja. They're awesome. We love them. We've been using your software, Bernie, for years. We love it. Yeah, it's so easy to use. And you guys help so many people with your free mastermind classes, all of that. Love them. Okay. So now that I'm done with my
Thank you so much for that
Ninja,
discount. That's awesome.
Yes, I mean, wonderful. Thank you so much for telling people about this trip. So that's what we got going on first. And also during that time, the 4th through the 9th, you're going to be not only having great meals with us, great networking events, great tourist activities and shows and great hotels and all that stuff, right? You're also going to attend the Evo Latam trade show. And that is sponsored by Alibaba. And we have a lot of other really great sponsors too, like Helium 10 and Carbon 6 and lots of great stuff there. So that trade show is happening at the World Trade Center on June 8th in Mexico City. And we also have Ecom Connect. It's a networking event that evening at the trade show. So if you sign up for the Mexico trip at themexicotrip.com, don't forget the Ninja 500 code, then you get all the days, all the meals, all the hotels, everything. Let's say that you just want to go to Mexico City for a day and you want to hang out at the trade show. Mexico City is really easy to fly into. World Trade Center is right there, super easy to navigate. If you just want to come to the trade show, you're like, I got this, Amy. I don't need education and dinners and meals and hotels. Okay, cool. Just come to the trade show. That's evolatam.com. So just go to evolatam.com and it's free to register. So what do you got to lose there? Nada. Sign up for that. And then we have one more event at the tail end of the sourcing trip. So June 4th through the 9th, we're just hanging out there. Trade shows the 8th. And then on the 9th, we're actually headed to Cancun for a few days. And we're going to do an advanced mastermind in Cancun, where we are going to be at an all-inclusive resort for a few days. We're not focused on sourcing from Mexico. We are focused on incredible advanced e-commerce topics. And so you can either go to just the Cancun experience, just the Cancun mastermind, just the sourcing trip, just the trade show, or you can do the VIP experience, which includes everything. And the only thing that our all-inclusive trip does not include is your flight to and from wherever you live, getting you to Mexico City and Cancun, right? So that's it. I mean, everything else is covered. We've got you covered. We got you taken care of. And what an incredible opportunity to just break into this new and exciting market.
It's a really great trip. And again, I think, you know, the focus that you've had in being a connector, connecting, you know, these brands, they're looking for opportunity, especially opportunity outside of China, these manufacturers in Mexico who are unfamiliar largely with our space and who would love to get connected to brands like us, and then service providers and all the rest of the fun. I guess the fourth thing is just fun on top of all that. So it sounds like a really, really great trip. Well, thank you so much, Amy, for joining us. I hope our audience, you know, finds that as exciting as I do. You know, what you're putting together is amazing. And if they have any questions at all, how can they reach out to you, Amy?
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for adding that because I almost forgot. We are actually doing a webinar coming up on the 27th of April. If this doesn't get published before then and you missed the webinar, that's okay, but you can go to the mexicotrip.com/webinar to sign up for that. And if you just want to learn more, you can head over to the mexicotrip.com and there's a more info tab. There's also, there's a little button that says you got questions. You can fill out the little form there and we'll be in touch with you. We can help answer your questions. We realize that this is kind of new and different and you probably have questions. So we're there for you. We have a lot of great news there. We're putting together a really awesome, comprehensive sourcing guide. So yeah, and then definitely register for the trade show because that is going to help you, get that information and just stay in touch with us, right? For sure.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much.